Call to order the regular board meeting for Pleasantdale School District 107 Board of Education at 6 p.m. on February 19th, 2025. Can we get a roll call, please?
Mr. Brown.
Here.
Mrs. Lenzen.
Here.
Ms. Marchione.
Here.
Mr. Nash.
Here.
Mrs. Walters.
Here.
Mr. Zona.
Here.
Mr. Mason.
Here.
We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
All right. One mark of an excellent school is how well that school produces leaders. At both schools, we have an excellent student leadership pipeline that puts students in the driver's seat of making a difference in their schools. Our student councils plan student activities, run fundraisers, and make school more fun. Tonight, we have members of our elementary school student council here to lead us in the pledge. I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Tomei for introductions.
Right, thank you. We are really excited. We have a great group of students representing Student Council. We have Fiona and Lily and Ella and Grace and Kate and Perry and Stephanie and Isabella and Mila and Alessandra and Mrs. Tokarczuk, who leads all of them. And Madeline might be popping in. But I'm going to turn it over to them because it's more exciting to hear from the students about the work that they do. So if you all want to come up here, have the podium, it's all yours. Fiona, you can start us off.
Thank you for inviting the Pleasantdale Elementary Student Council to lead the Pledge of Allegiance. Our Student Council works every day to make sure our school is a better place. We ensure everybody's ideas are heard, plan fun events, and find ways to support others in our community. One of our weekly goals is maintaining this scarce boxes in our classrooms. These boxes encourage upcycling and recycling of items that would otherwise be discarded, helping reduce waste in meaningful ways. By repurposing these materials, we maximize their usefulness, reduces landfill waste, save money, and provide valuable resources for others. Our student council also helps build school spirit and a sense of community at Pleasantdale. This year, we've joined hosting activities and planning dress-up days for Red Ribbon Week to encourage everyone to make healthy choices. We're also committed to giving back. This year, we collected hundreds of clothing items for Cradle to Crayons. We donated over 500 canned goods to the York Township Food Pantry. Looking ahead, we're excited for Read Across America Week in March and our upcoming book collection for Bernie's Book Bank, supporting their mission to provide free books for children in need. Our whole class Eagle Feather Challenge continues to encourage every PES classroom to follow the Eagle Way, reinforcing positive behavior in a caring school environment. Through the Student Council, we are constantly learning valuable learning skills and the importance of giving back our school and community. We would like to extend a heartfelt thanks to the school board and administrations for making Pleasantdale a place where students can grow, learn, and succeed. Your dedication and hard work make it possible for us to attend such amazing school every day. We are truly grateful for all that you do. Thank you for inviting us.
And I just want to give a shout out to Karen Tokarczuk, one of our 4th grade teachers, and the host. Karen is, in a word, amazing. But she is always looking for new ideas, looking for ways to engage more students, looking for opportunities to provide students leadership, providing ways for students to demonstrate leadership, and she is incredibly flexible. So as you know, 4th graders have lots of opportunities to be involved, and she always is willing to find a way to make it work, so that students can, as many students as possible can participate. So just thank you to you, Karen. All right, ladies, it's time for the pledge. Invite everyone to stand.
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
You guys want to stand together real quick so you get your picture? Can all of you guys stand over here? Ready?
Right here.
Right here.
Come on down.
Mr.
Mrs. Tarchek, you should be.
Yeah. I'll send you the.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you so much for inviting us. Thank
Alright, next we'll move into grad board.
Yeah, so, and speaking of fun at school, students at the middle school engage in monthly door decorating contests through Win Time. This activity requires students to collaborate with one another to design doors around certain SEL themes. Students work together and make some amazing products. This month's theme was kindness, and you can see some examples of the decorated doors on our blackboard. So, you get a chance, take a look at some of the work that some of our 7th graders and our 5th through 8th graders put together at middle school. It's good stuff.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, thank you.
Next, we're going to move into item 3, open forum. Please know that all individuals addressing the board will be afforded 3 minutes. We will also limit to 15 minutes on any one topic, and we'll take the green forms in the order they were received. The green forms are out in the hallway. If you have a question, we will acknowledge all who have completed the green form in the minutes of this meeting. Any questions addressed to the board will be answered by administration within 48 hours. Additionally, for clarification and to ensure that your specific questions are answered, we request that the questions be submitted in writing on the green form. We have a couple green forms, so I'm going to go ahead and call them in order that they're here. So first is Mr. Tom Ara.
Hello, everybody. It's been a while. I'm here today as a resident and previous member of the 2023 Citizens Engagement Committee. While I have not been present at the meetings, I've been monitoring the discussion from afar through your YouTube video recordings. As a reminder, I've addressed this board in support of the pre-K and 5th grade realignment as next steps to student enrichment. However, I believe the approach to implementation of those plans will require a cost-effective land acquisition building proposal plan, which you're working on as a witness. Tuition-based pre-K with scholarship opportunities for inclusion of all the district children, which was supported by the 2023 Citizen Engagement Committee. And better communication to the wider community beyond the parents with children who attend Pleasantdale School. I wanted to comment on a few statements that these board meetings need some clarification on. One is about student enrollment. It's been near or below the Cassandra report from December 2019, which had projections of average enrollment. Many reports in this meeting commonly include the pre-K enrollment, which is not what the Cassandra report references and is not required by the state of Illinois for enrollment. Furthermore, the estimate enrollment projections through 2030 remains very flat for kindergarten through 8th grade. I have a spreadsheet if anybody is interested in those numbers. Also number 2, aging resident assumptions and increased enrollment fears may be unfounded. As many of my neighbors and I have seen our children grow and leave the area with no thoughts of leaving or selling our homes. As an example, on my street alone there are 17 homes. In the last 5 years, 3 have sold, only one of which wound up with an elementary school child. So it kind of supports Cassandra report's estimates. Questions I have for the district and really on behalf of the taxpayers for the community is when can we expect some communication on what is the additional school facility plan? Because I've heard a few different scenarios. When can the district taxpayers provide feedback on these plans? What is the tax impact to residents? And is there a high-level schedule for the additional school facility plans? So it's just give us a picture. And finally, it's my observation and others who I spoke to, the lack of communication to the overall community of the district 107-2023 project plans contributed greatly to your overwhelming defeat. Please over-communicate. Do anything you can, because the people that don't have children in the schools right now are the ones that didn't know what was going on. And I know that's a tough thing to do. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next form we have is from Karen Lazowski.
Good evening. So I'm Karen Lasowski, and I am here today as a Willow Springs resident and a former special education teacher from Pleasantdale. I support early childhood programs. For the past 30 years, I have had teaching credentials that allow me to work in the early childhood environment. What I don't support is having my community pay for an early childhood building that's not needed. According to the data that I received through the Freedom of Information Act, there has been a downward trend over the last 5 years in student enrollment. My two questions are as follows. How does reducing 3 preschool sections down to 2 in 2022 and reducing 2 teacher positions in 2024 fit Dave's narrative that the district is at capacity? Pleasantdale implemented a co-teaching inclusion model in 2018. Why do related service staff need extra classrooms if Pleasantdale is following an inclusion model? Some extra thoughts. Has anyone given thought to the amount of distractions a police station nearby is going to cause for an early childhood building? Not only are the lights and sirens going to be distracting, this could be detrimental to a child with sensory needs. A school so close to County Line Road poses all sorts of safety issues for young children. Approximately 10 years ago, a preschooler with special needs got out of the elementary school unattended. The student was found very close to the German Church Road. The proposed school near County Line Road is significantly closer to a highly used 4-lane road with a 45 mile per hour posted speed limit. As a former Pleasantdale teacher, I was required to participate in data meetings for all students. The data presented at these meetings drove instruction, which I agree was best practice. If data drives instruction for students here at Pleasantdale, then I feel data should drive instruction for construction or renovation at Pleasantdale. The district should not build or renovate a building without the proper data to support it. The Pleasantdale Community Survey in 2023, for which the school paid over $10,000, was clear, and they stated that the community would not support a new building. Watch the November 2023 video to see for yourselves. As fiduciaries, once you review the student data that I did send to you yesterday, you will see it's not fiscally responsible to pursue this early childhood building. More importantly, it's not developmentally appropriate for an early childhood building to be so close to a police station and a busy 4-lane road. I am here tonight because I'm concerned that the information supplied by Dave about why the district should pursue an early childhood building is not what was actually reflected in the data. Thank you.
Thank you. Next form we have is Tom Lazowski.
Hi, my name's Tom Lasowski. I'm a resident of Willow Springs. I just got a couple comments. Thinking about the renovation project of the 2 libraries a few years back, Dave promised new technology features and only delivered a beautification project with fewer books. I would challenge Dave to tell the board 3 features that are currently in the library that were not present before the renovation. Don't let history repeat itself with the promises of a new early childhood building. The decisions you make as board members will impact the entire Pleasantdale community for the next 20 years. I'm concerned that this is another attempt by Dave so he can add a $12 million project to his resume. This community will be stuck with a higher tax bill for the next 20 years in a building that we don't need.
And then the last form is Samantha Washlow.
Good evening. I'm actually here for a different reason, but I wanted to address some of the comments about the Early Education Center. First and foremost, I wanted to say thank you for your service to the board and your leadership in this area. I believe that it improves our area. I personally am not from this area. I moved to this area because I work in close proximity, and so does my husband. I'm a criminal defense attorney, and I've done so for the last 20 years. And education is the reason that I picked this community. And that is what the future homeowners are going to look at when they're purchasing property here. For every dollar that is spent, it will increase property values by $13. Now, as one of the gentlemen had indicated, that on his block, there's no turnover. However, on my block, we've had 8 turnovers, all with families with 3 or more children. If you look at other competitive communities, as far as the schooling in their districts and their grading for their districts, all of those communities have early childhood centers or other options like that for the community. Being a leader is having to make a decision that is for the greater good. There's always going to be naysayers, so thank you.
That's it for green forms. All right. Thank you, everyone. All right, next we're going to move on to item 4, the consent agenda, which consists of the following. Item 4A, approve regular meeting minutes of the January 15th, 2025 meeting. 4B, declassify closed session minutes. 4C, approve payment of the January payroll and February warrants. This month was Jason with her bill checker.
That's good.
All good, thank you. 4D, approve the February 2025 personnel report. And 4E, approve the parent-student handbook. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Vaca?
Yes.
Mrs. Lenson?
Yes.
Mrs. Marchione?
Yes.
Mr. Nash?
Yes.
Mrs. Walters?
Yes.
Mr. Zona?
Yes.
Mr. Mason?
Yes.
Thanks, Karen. We're going to move on to item 5, administrative reports.
All right, let's have some good news and some exciting news.
Do you need a drum roll?
Seriously. Annually, the Illinois Principals Association recognizes principals in each region of the state as the Regional Principal of the Year. This year, the IPA, Illinois Principals Association, wisely selected our very own Kathleen Tomei as the Elementary School Principal of the Year. The Elementary School Principal of the Year award is really the most difficult one to win, because if you think about just the concentration of elementary schools, there are the largest number of elementary schools. It has the largest field of candidates to win that award. If you look at high schools, there are way fewer high schools in West Cook than there are elementary schools. So there are, I want to say, 94 elementary schools. Kathleen clearly rose to the top of that field. She's an amazing leader who continues to find ways to level up her building. I think you saw some of that tonight with our Pledge of Allegiance group. Her building always has a focus on doing what's right for kids, and we are lucky to have her leading our schools. Kathleen, congratulations. I'll let you step to the podium.
Thank you. Anything that I'm able to accomplish is not done in isolation. It is your leadership. It is the leadership of my administrative team that I get to work with, that Dave has so wisely hired to support me. It is amazing teachers, some of whom are here tonight. It is the parents and families and the students. So thank you to all of you. It is an award that is all of ours. So thank you. I appreciate all of you there.
Don't go too far.
Oh my goodness.
Well, thank
A
you.
little congratulatory gift on
Congratulations.
behalf of the board, so we just want to acknowledge
Thank you.
your
It is
achievement
beautiful.
and thank you for your dedication to
Absolutely.
to the
It's my
school, the
honor to
students,
work here and
and
to serve all of this.
and you'll
Communities.
follow us.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank
Congratulations. Moving on. All right. Over the course of this year, we've invited parents and staff to read the book The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt. The book looks at how cell phones and social media are impacting this generation of children. The group read the book, discussed the concepts, and made recommendations to implement concepts within the book. Tonight, I, along with a group of committed parents, will present the concepts found in the book and share some ways that we can address the concerns that are identified in the book. So if you just give me 1 second to get to the podium and assemble my team here. We'll go ahead and jump into the...
Are you part of the team?
Seat's open. Yeah, take my seat.
Look at you.
So, not only do we have our group of presenters here tonight, but we also have some people who were part of the committee or who read the book, so thank you to those who came to support this important work. But our presenters tonight, we have, why don't you go ahead and just click? Sure. Great. So we've got Mario who's here tonight. We have Samantha who's here. We have Shannon and Tanya here to present. And then so we have names and then their little, or in my case, maybe not so little ones that are up there as well. So names and ages of the children that they have in the district. So great group to present. So I'd like to start off with a story. And I use this story as part of the One Book, One Community group after we read the book. So these are my three boys quite some time ago. The two on the end are both in, I want to say, third grade, and the one in the middle, that's Jackson. He is in fourth grade in this picture. And so the story I'd like to tell is really about, really about Jackson. And so when Jack was in about fourth grade, he came to me and he said, "Hey Dad, I want to have a play date with Milo," the little guy down the street. I said, "Okay, we'll go have a play date with Milo." And he's like, "Well, that's not how it works." I'm like, "Well, tell me how it works." "You have to call Milo's mom and you have to tell her that we're going to have a play date, and then we can have a play date, and then you have to come and get me after the play date, and then we've had the play date." And I said, "But Jack, why don't you just go over to Milo's house and knock on the door and say, 'Is Milo home? Can I play?'" And he goes, "I can't do that. I don't know how to do that." So Jack and I spent probably about 20 minutes, a half an hour role playing how to knock on the door. He went out to our house, went on the front door, and knocked on the door, and I pretended to be Milo's mom and answered the door. And he asked if Milo was home and could Milo play. And in the end, he walked over to Milo's house and he had his play date and he walked home. But again, he was in fourth grade when this happened. He had no idea how to walk over to someone's house, knock on the door, and ask for a play date. It was a learned experience for him. He needed to learn that in order to be successful at it. And I think that is kind of the crux of the book, is that we overprotect our kids in the real world and kind of underprotect them in the virtual world. And so this was just a kind of a benign example of a way that he showed some independence, that he was able to learn a new skill, and it is a skill. I actually heard a news story the other day. There's a college in somewhere in the UK that now has a class that is teaching college kids how to talk on the phone in a professional manner, because there's so much anxiety around having to talk on the telephone and not text. So again, these are learned skills that are important. So it's a nice way to kind of open up the conversation about ways that we can, as a community, address that. And our goal is really to start a movement around this, giving kids the appropriate amount of independence, bringing back kind of that independent play, getting rid of distractions in classrooms. I don't want to steal anybody's thunder, but I will turn it over to Shannon, who will take the next couple of slides. There she is.
I'm a horrible public speaker, so and I wasn't as prepared as I felt like I should be. So just to discuss the slide, the evidence is all around us. There are endless articles discussing research and popular discourse, but I would guess that you've probably witnessed this yourself in your community, workplace, or even in your own home. The person that failed to even look up when they're crossing the street, and have failed to look at traffic because they're glued to their phone. Your child who's unable to peel their eyes off the tablet and discuss their day or finish a chore. The new employee that is struggling to ask for assistance because of the conversation they have to have.
Next slide.
I'm just going to go ahead and read some of the key points that social media's role in mental health decline. Some of the key points that were heavily discussed in the book were heavy social media heavy social media use is linked to poor self-esteem, loneliness, and body image issues. Unfortunately, adolescent girls who use social media more report higher levels of distress, and constant online social comparison and cyberbullying are significant contributors. On to the next.
This is one of the graph from Jonathan Haid's book. It's one of the mildest graph. It shows prevalence of anxiety in the States for the last 12 years. And as you can see, before 2010, it was relatively flat for all age cohorts. After 2010, kind of between 2010 and 2015, that's what, using his words, that's when epidemic started for the younger Gen Z. As you can see, the blue line is Gen Z. So what happened between 2010 and 2015 happened through things. Introduction of smartphones, not your cell phone, smartphones, social media. 2012, the rates, some of the graphs, 2012, Instagram, Facebook, as well as front-facing camera, which was one of the worst for girls especially. So just to summarize these graphs, these digital innovations, they disrupt mental health, especially for young generation, disrupted dramatically, if not, like to use mild words. Even older folks are impacted, but why younger generation is so much impacted? It's because their brain is still developing. We're giving them these absolutely unnecessary devices and tools that hinder their brain development. I have 2 master's degrees, and I'm gonna die with my accent just because my brain wasn't developed here. It was developed in a different linguistic environment. And this is a normal outcome. You know, I'm still fully functional. For them, some of the graphs, and Dr. Palzet used the mild one, some of the graphs in the book they show depression, major depression, ER admission, inpatient admission for self-harm, committed suicides, different outcomes for girls and boys. Depression and anxiety are bigger for girls, failure to launch are bigger for girls, failure to launch are bigger for boys. So those 5 years disrupted their childhood. And it's important for us to act right now before they get access to these technologies, while their brains are still developing. The next slide. The next slide shows a couple very interesting statistics. It takes about 20 minutes to refocus during the period after looking at your phone. So if the period is 40 minutes, it's gone. So we're not only, impacting their mental health, we're destroying their academic performance. 3 hours daily. If they spend about 3 hours on social media, the risk of anxiety and depression doubles, just simply doubles. Of course, there is negative effect, a negative impact on scores and performance. We all understand that. What is also very interesting, kids are not dumb. They beg for help. 68% of them, they are openly reporting that devices are distracting. They just don't need they just don't know how to break this cycle of this addiction. And that's very sad part.
Hello, my name is Mario. I have a 8-year-old and a 6-year-old, and they play a lot of video games, and based on this comic strip here, it says, dude, I've never made it to this level before. I have no idea what to do. And I appreciate reading this book because my approach was exactly like Dave mentioned earlier, where I wasn't as focused on protecting them via online versus overprotecting them when they were young. I remember when I was a little kid, one of the questions we asked in our focus group was, how is your childhood different than your kid's childhood? And I told them I remember loving my bike. I would ride my bike to the 7-Eleven, I'd ride around to my neighbors, to all my friends' house. And after reading this book, I thought to myself, wow, I have not let my 8-year-old ride his bike in the neighborhood because I'm concerned, there's cars, someone's going too fast. But this year, when they started to look at my phone and my wife's phone and their grandparents' phone on TikTok and whatnot, one of the incidents they saw a scary video game and they had nightmares. And so after reading this book, it made me realize that this is probably the correct thing to do, and the recommendations are pretty straightforward. No smartphones before high school, no social media before age of 16, phone-free schools, which is, I think, key. As I went to elementary, we all went to school, there were no phones, no distractions, and I still found it difficult to focus on the hard work at times. And more outdoor play and independence, and that's one of the things that really stuck for me. And my goal this summer is to let my 8-year-old ride his bike around the neighborhood, which is, as parents, as me, I'll speak for myself, it's making me nervous. There's teenagers, there's schools, there's people driving around and everything, but I think it allows the kids to grow more independently, allows them to get confidence, and allows them to build those special skills that they are smart and can figure most of the stuff out. This one, physical well-being. I'll go ahead and read through this one. It says, students are able to grow and develop appropriately when they feel physically safe and they have the components necessary to become productive members of society. Social and emotional well-being. Students who feel socially and emotionally supported are able to thrive in school and at home. We want to provide environments that will enhance our kids' social and emotional development, which I think is, if you are on your phone and distracted constantly, you miss all those opportunities for developing soft skills, which is talking to your friends, talking about what to do later, who's doing what. Just recently, we were in Disney. It was funny to see that there were a lot of kids that were probably between ages 10 and 13, and they were all standing in front of us and they were all standing behind us, but they were not really talking. They were just all on their phones looking at their phone the entire time, which I don't think I would have noticed if I hadn't read this book before. It's important to build out the soft skills. Educational environment. We want our children to learn in an environment that allows them to focus on learning. This environment is free from distractions that may compromise students' attention, just like the slide said earlier. Distraction, it takes you about 20 minutes to get back focused, so I think it's important to limit as many distractions as you can during school.
Hello again. I don't know has everybody here read the book? Yes? Okay. So, because I didn't know if you guys knew the premise that it was just about the science behind the cell phones and social media and technology and the difference of, I'm Gen X, I'm an older mom, and the difference of my childhood and the childhood that my children are having. And I see that something's different, and it's not different in a good way. And I love this book. And I wanted to say thank you to Dave and to the school for hosting such an amazing night that evening. It was probably one of the best evenings and meetings that I had attended, and I have attended quite a few different learning classes that the schools have put on. But this was amazing in the fact that, it was parents coming together with a common goal. And it seemed as if that there was an overwhelming consensus that social change is needed, and that is what everyone at the meeting wanted. And we came up with different recommendations from the book and from discussing it out loud with each other on how we can make these changes to help our kids. Now that the science is out on what these things are doing to our kids, we know better, we need to do better. And there was 3 recommendations total. The first recommendation is to develop events that build community. There was an overwhelming sense amongst the parents that there's a lack of community, that there's a disconnect between each other. You might know your immediate neighbors, but I don't know a lot of these people in this room. And it makes it difficult if we don't have community building events that the school can host or that we can build throughout the community in order to make more connections. Connections are what is missing for the adults and for the children. And these were some of the ideas that we had come up with, and it was, you know, more discussions for the adults, host regular events to bring families together, and we came up with like Snuggle Up and Read, Family Game Night, develop a community volunteer teaching support program to help support students learn, plan and execute community service projects and events that families can complete together, and develop collective content, meaning advice for new parents or Pleasantdale cookbooks. The second recommendation is to foster independent play and experiences for the kids. Because like Dave's story, my kids are similar in that they don't know how to do basic things. And just making my 10-year-old go in the store and buy a gallon of milk with some cash was life-shattering to her. And she couldn't do it. She eventually did it, but you know, these are skills that I was walking down the block at age 5 to buy my mom cigarettes. So, you know, we've taken these things away from our kids, and it's not helping them. It's making them fragile, and it's making them incapable, and we're taking away their autonomy. And I think that we can do better. So the book has shown, and schools that have implemented this have shown that offering more unstructured play during the day before or after school helps them foster social emotional learning. These are life skills that are learned as a side effect of play. We could provide different opportunities for the schools to teach the kids to work with their hands, whether it be cooking or whether it be home economics or woodworking or anything like that. Expand the bike bus program to help our kids be able to ride their bikes to school, because there's not sidewalks everywhere, and you know, it's difficult for kids to do the simplest thing of riding their bikes to school. And this is a great opportunity for us to build as a community, to teach our kids so many skills, to ride a bike, to be a part of a community, physical exercise. And then the last thing is implement the Let Grow project. And the Let Grow project is a side, or not a side, is a project that Lenore Sakasi, I believe it was, started, and that is to foster independence within children. And what that basically is having the school and the parents implement or request their kids to do something that they haven't done before that they should be doing, like cutting their own meat, you know, because it's easier for us to just do it, but we're not helping, we're hurting, you know, to climb a tree. It's to run an errand, you know. These are all small things that our kids should be doing that we've kind of taken away because we've overprotected them. And then the third recommendation is distraction-free learning environment. So it has been shown now with the science that access to cell phones during the day is interfering with learning. And it's also interfering with the teacher's ability to maintain focus, okay? And also to go with no smartwatches during the school, and then to also limit the use of phones for after-school activities to allow them to focus on being a kid. I don't know if any of you have seen when a group of kids get together, they all huddle around whoever has the phone to watch the phone instead of playing, and it's sad. So thank you for your time.
So I want to talk a little bit about the implementation of those recommendations, specifically, specifically the cell phone-free schools. And we look at it as being able to provide kids with a 6-hour and 45-minute break from their cell phone each day. So I'm going to share just a few slides that give a little bit of background, a little bit of kind of quick run through some of the research, but schools that have implemented truly phone-free schools. When I say truly phone-free schools, the kids do not have access to those phones throughout the day. They see a decrease in kind of the negative stuff, the anxiety, the depression, the social alienation, and they see an increase in that positive stuff, student engagement, academic success, participation in school activities. So again, this is just information from schools that have implemented. The author of the book states, cell phone bans are in place in 77% of schools, but that high number really refers to any school that just says, kids, you shouldn't bring your phone to school. And what that turns into is really an unenforceable rule, right? It puts teachers in the middle of having to implement a rule that is really, really difficult to implement because cell phones are so prevalent in our school, they're so easy to use. And so our goal here is to preserve that relationship between teachers and kids and not make teachers the cell phone police in this process, but to put a process in place that allows teachers to focus on teaching and building relationships with kids. Next slide, please. Again, just a little bit of research that shows that smartphones, and again, I feel like I'm repeating a little bit what you've heard before, but they diminish especially kids' ability to focus on cognitive tasks, right? And without that fully developed prefrontal cortex, and simply saying to the kid, just put it away, doesn't work. I mean, their brains aren't developed enough to truly put it away and stop thinking about it because it's not their fault. Their brain just isn't developed at this point until they're about 18 to 20 years old. Next slide, please. This is interesting because it is literally brand new research from Medical Pediatric Journal from February 3rd, so just a few weeks old, that essentially students spend about 8.5 hours a day on their cell phones, and 1.5 hours of that is during the time that they're at school. So again, that 6.5 hour day, and this study looked at a 6.5 hour day. We have a 6 hour and 45 minute day. We're looking at a 6 hour, 45 minute break from their cell phone to kind of change that 8.5 hours, bring that number way down if we can. Next slide, please. I know that there is going to be some concern from parents in regards to our plan regarding safety, right? I need to be able to get a hold of my kid if there is an emergency or something happening at school. What the research would show, and what the author shows in the book, is that actually cell phones can hinder safety in the event of an emergency. That if there's an emergency where kids have to be paying attention to directions, they need to be listening to the adults, they often act as the cell phone is often a distraction to any adult who is giving, or first responder who's giving directions. A high volume of calls can jam the kind of circuits, so to speak, and stop the first responders from being able to communicate when they need to communicate. It's a noise risk. If you're in an event that requires, sadly to say, for you to hide and your phone is pinging or making noise or vibrating or lighting up, again, it puts you at risk. And then there's just the operational distraction that in the event of an emergency, the first responders are going to take over these buildings. And if we have kids who are texting home, this thing is happening, and parents start flooding in, the first responders aren't able to do what they need to do to neutralize the threat, right? Because they're having to deal with everything else that's going on. So our solution is the Yonder pouch. And so you have some Yonder pouches in front of you that you can kind of test out. And what we're suggesting is that as kids come into the school, they would insert their phone into the pouch, they would lock the pouch, and that's where the phone would stay for the day. And at the end of the day, as they walked out of the building, we would unlock the pouch for them, and they could then get their phone. Timeline for the rollout. Go ahead. So what we're looking at is this presentation in February, meeting with teacher leaders and our building leadership teams to kind of develop those logistics. And I'm sure you have questions about logistics. I'm happy to answer them as best we can. However, the reason that we have this timeline where we're looking at starting with 5th grade in April, so we have April, May, and a few days in June, to really test this out and figure out what's going to make it work before we implement district-wide. So again, March, finalize the plan, communicate to families what we're going to be doing. April and June, begin a pilot program in 5th grade, monitor the pilot program, make necessary adjustments, and then August, looking to implement district-wide. Again, wouldn't be a day presentation without a quote, right? Questions for me or any of our other presenters?
So I assume when we're saying monitor and make changes, are we talking about surveying teachers, parents, like to
Getting
solicit
feedback, sure.
on like how they think it's going?
Yep.
I mean, I know you're gonna work on logistics, but logistically it seems like a lot.
Yeah.
So just making sure it's not too burdensome on our staff to like kind of implement this.
So the goal would be to actually have it be no burden on our staff.
Okay.
That we would have we already have morning duty people who are greeting kids as they come in and doing supervision. We would work with those people to have the kids putting their phones and administrators out at the doors and things like that, making sure that the kids were putting their phones in to the pouches as they walk in the door. And by the time they get to class, there's really nothing more for the teachers to do at that point because the phones are already kind of stowed away in their pouches. So again, there's probably I'm probably oversimplifying it, and I fully understand that. And once we get into it, we're going to find that there may be some things that we need to do differently, but that's the plan right now, is that as kids come in, goes in the pouch, by the time they get to first period, it's away, it's done, teachers focus on teaching.
And do the students carry their pouch around with them all day, or how?
They can carry the pouch with them because, again, I don't want to necessarily be responsible for
responsibility.
350 cell phones. But yeah, so the kids would keep their pouch with them.
All right, I got lots of questions.
Okay.
Let's dive in. All right, here we go. Why 5th grade?
So the reason we selected 5th grade was, one, not all students in 5th grade have cell phones. It's just a little bit of an easier lift because it's just fewer cell phones that we would have to put in pouches. Once we implemented district-wide, we really see this being more of an initiative at the middle school. And therefore, you already have 5th graders who are used to it, who have had an experience with it. The 4th graders who are coming up don't know any different. So really, your focus, it's really truly new for our incoming 7th and 8th graders at that point. So, and then the movement of 5th grade is just a little bit less within the building, so it's a little bit easier to kind of track them.
Okay, is the thought process to house all smart devices within these pouches?
That's what other schools have done, is they put watches and phones within the
Within
pouch.
these pouches?
Can I ask a real question? So at some point, do students or parents realize that just don't bring the phone or the smartwatch or the
That's generally
not
what,
bring it to school?
in schools that have implemented in the past, or in the area, what we've been told was that, yeah, kids just stop bringing the phones or the watches to study.
It's all right. Let us okay, but we currently have rules in place.
We do.
So, to keep that in the locker, so then how come we wouldn't just keep these in the locker? I just feel like this is
Oh
gonna
yeah,
be a
absolutely.
distraction.
Those would stay in the locker, or I mean, generally that's what ends up happening, right? I think it's going to be a difficult first 2 weeks, no doubt. You're going to get kids who protest. You're going to get some families who protest, and then eventually it just kind of becomes what we do. The cell phone ends up in the locker. It may end up in the backpack, inside the pouch, but it doesn't end up in front of their face. And that's really the problem. That is the unenforceable kind of part when you don't have it physically separated. You know what I mean?
Right, no, I totally agree. It's just the thought of them carrying this on top of all of their books,
Right.
walking through the hallway seems
Correct.
kind of like a little bit
Put
of
it in the
a-
locker.
Yeah, I like the locker thing,
Yep.
the better idea.
Are we gonna like put their name on it?
We can.
Because if they all look the same, like I feel like that could be a real conundrum.
So that some districts have them grab a yonder as they walk in and put, they just grab a random, put it in, clip it. Others assign, and so the yonder actually gets assigned to the kid, and there's a little clear pouch there, a clear thing where you can put a name tag or a ID or something like that.
Okay, and then, no, please, jump on in. Last question. So my question is, so we're talking about technology and screen time. Have we done an internal audit of screen time by
Yeah.
grade level? Because like we're giving our kinders, our 5-year-olds tablets.
Yep.
And it's just kind of like contradictory of
Yep.
what we're saying.
And that's part of the recommendation 3 is to look at that balance of the technology that we're also
Right.
supplying.
Right.
Now, I think the thing to remember, it's not just about screen time, it's about texting, social media, kind of unaccounted for YouTube, where our devices don't have any of those things. They don't have messaging, they don't have social media.
Right.
The YouTube is so locked down that they can only go to the places that we allow them to go to. So again, the difficulty around the smartphone is not only just the screen, it's the interaction with social media and all those other apps that our iPads don't have. But again, that's something that we're going to be looking at. I'll be perfectly honest with you, as I walk around the school and I walk into classrooms, I still, kids are still using paper books. We're still using
Right, no, which is wonderful.
lots of those resources. But yes, that's part of this, is to make sure that there's that balance between traditional teaching methods and technology
Right,
as
like
well.
if we're trying to limit the screen usage, that it's just like, but yet we still use it so often within our, we still
100%.
want to be technologically.
Yeah, you want to be
literate,
technology forward, but you
responsible,
also
right,
want
right.
to balance.
So I was just
100%.
curious about.
100%.
So,
I mean, we'll have to look at our libraries because we have lots of screens and things like that we haven't had in the past in our libraries, and some technology in there that we'd have to address. But other than that, I think we can limit that pretty easily.
okay. I think that's all I have.
I have a few questions too.
Yeah, go
Yes,
for it.
Okay, so once they put their cell phone in here, it blocks all communication in
I
that cell
believe
phone.
so. I believe so. I mean, our plan would be to have them turn it off
Okay.
when they come into the building and then and put it in there.
And so then if I, text my son, you're gonna take the bus home today
Yep.
instead of pickup.
Yep.
Like once he pulls it out of here, how long will he
Instantaneous.
be able to get that message?
Instantaneous.
Okay, so he can grab the bus real quick.
Yeah, just so you know, I tested this with my own kids and stuck their phones in there and said, okay, tell me how would you get it out? What would you do? And so that was one of the things, though. I did text them, and they were getting text messages while I was in, and when they pulled it out, they popped right out.
Okay, and then you also mentioned earlier when we were talking about this,
Mhm.
that if they go home with it still locked, you're gonna have something outside of the school that they can like run
Correct.
into, like unlock it so they
So
have access.
we actually will
Yeah.
put one of those unlocking mechanisms mounted on a wall outside of the school with a little door on it, so that after school hours, we can take that door off. If someone inadvertently goes home with their bag, they can come and unlock it during off time.
Okay, and I also, I really don't want this to be an extra burden, like you mentioned, for the teachers.
Mhm.
And so, like, what happens then if someone has, like you mentioned, like a burner phone, like another phone that they
Yeah, I
like,
mean,
what happens during
we'll
the
have
day?
to address those
I don't want them to
situations.
be like,
Yeah, we'll have to address those situations as they come up, and our administration will work with those kids, we'll work with those parents. I mean, it's like any other school rule that was broken, right? Like, we need to work with the kid, work with the parent. If it becomes continuous and habitual, then there are consequences and things like that. We would follow our kind of progressive discipline.
And then, I'm sorry, I'm like,
You're good.
in this conversation, but I just saw today, and I know you mentioned this also, that there's legislation that's pending about this very issue. So I appreciate that we're like talking about it, because if it does go in effect through the whole state in 2025, 2026 is what, they're
Mhm.
predicting, then I'd like to be ahead of the curve and have like.
Yeah, I mean,
For
the
the
governor,
rest of us,
the
what
governor
is it?
mentioned it in his State of the State address,
Just
that he
today.
was putting, just today, this
Yeah.
afternoon, that he was gonna put legislation forward.
Like what?
Or a
is it?
statewide ban.
A
Oh, thank
statewide
you.
ban.
Yeah,
Oh,
on cell
oh,
phones
oh.
in schools.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. So would these even be well, we'll cross that
Yeah.
bridge when it comes.
Yeah,
Well,
I think
yeah,
these
this
would
would be
actually
like-
help, it would put us ahead of the curve, I think.
Accelerated.
Oh.
Yeah, so we would be like ahead of the curve like we were with kindergarten.
Like we are with
But, I
preschool.
mean, do we know what the prospects of that legislation passing are? Like,
It's hard to say. I mean, he brought it up today, so I'm sure in the coming weeks we'll hear all kinds of chatter coming out of Springfield around that. I don't know whether or not he actually has legislation drafted, or whether he's gonna kind of let the Congress kind of come up with that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not exactly sure what that process looks like. I'm sure it will include, ISB will be involved in that piece. I'm sure that it will include some level of board policy that would be mandated and stuff like that.
Right, I think that'll be interesting, because I know IASB just denied the resolution
Right.
talking about this, so.
Right.
But, yeah, I mean, overall, I think, you know, as I was reading Anxious Generation, I kept like trying to differentiate my own children. I'm like, well, they're below this age,
Yeah.
you know, they know doesn't apply to them. And then the more that I read through it, and it's very dense material and a little scary, actually. And, you know, I was like, well, this is what we want so that my children don't go through these crazy emergency room, you know, situations and things. But so yeah, thanks for like bringing this. I think this is a really good idea for our district, and as long as it's like implemented in a way that doesn't, you know, cause undue burden on the teachers and the parents, I think it's a really great plan.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? All right, thanks guys, we look forward to moving this forward. And thanks to our presenters who did
Oh, yes, thank
a
you.
Very kind,
Thank you so Gentlemen?
I'm always cold, so.
Are you?
That's all application.
Cold-hearted, that's right. About 10 degrees.
All right, ready to move on? All right, preliminary staffing. So each November, the administration begins conversations about staffing for the following year. Our goals when staffing our school are to ensure that we have the proper resources to meet our students' needs and do so within our board class size guidelines in a fiscally responsible manner. This year, our preliminary staffing plan calls for a slight increase in staffing as we look to add a district social worker to the plan. It also calls for a slight increase in our orchestra position to accommodate a growing program. Each board member has a copy of the staffing plan at your spot, and then the grid is also, there it is, displayed on the screen. Is there any way to make that a little bit bigger?
You can make
There
it
we go.
larger, but I'll have
So-
to move around.
So a couple of things I want to point out. The social worker increase is actually a 0.5 FTE, because if you look at special ed at the middle school, based on student need, we had 4.5 this year. That we only need 4 next year based on our IEP minutes. So that half position is able to be pledged to the new social work position, so it actually becomes an increase of a 0.5 FTE. The other thing I would draw your attention to is that under music, we had 2.5, and that 0.5 was the orchestra teacher, and our orchestra numbers are just booming with our new orchestra teacher, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like,
It's like half the grade it's in.
yeah, I mean, she has just done a phenomenal job, and so in order to accommodate these increased numbers, we need more sections, we need more sectionals, time for her to meet with the violins or the cellos or whomever. So again, there's a slight increase there as well.
Yeah, she's great.
That is,
Questions yet? What about gifted DS? Because it looks like we're going from 1 to 2. Or gifted / DS, and PMS.
oh, I'm sorry, no, that should be a 1, that's a mistake,
Oh,
I
okay.
apologize.
Okay.
That all stays the same, that all stays the same.
Oh,
I
so
don't-
that should be 1, not, okay,
Yeah,
so
I
sorry.
apologize. I'll
Oh,
fix
yeah,
that.
no problem.
So for the
Oh.
social worker, so 1.5, so
Yeah, I'm
it's
confused.
so it's a half per school, so that's a full, so we're gonna go back and forth between.
They'll do 3 days at one, 2 days at the other, then 3 days at the first, 2 days at the second.
Now, is that as needed, or is it going to be like where you can follow the students?
So the goal would be to follow students, right? Like, building that relationship is an important piece. However, if there is a particular need at a certain time over the course of the year, we can kind of shift resources as necessary, but the goal would be for this person to kind of be like a traditional social worker, right? Running groups, working with students who have social work minutes in their IEP, building that relationship with kids, and kind of going back and forth between the two schools. The problem we run into, honestly, is that we don't have any office space for them. So we're figuring out where I mean, we're so crowded in our buildings, we've already converted storage units, storage rooms to instructional spaces. We've taken classrooms and broken them up so they can be either multi-instructional spaces or office space. So right now, the current plan is to take Mr. Mukite over there and put him in the basement of this building.
Sorry.
And take his office. So, you're right, he's gonna want his red stapler. So again, it's a good problem to have. I mean, it's a problem that is a problem, but being able to bring another social worker online for our kids is a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a good thing.
So we'll have 3 social workers, one will be split between the 2 buildings,
Correct.
right? Okay, just
And
wanted to
give them a
follow.
presentation, just for.
Yeah.
Useful, will be used.
Yeah.
Well,
Correct.
yeah,
Maybe
but in this day and age,
increase
we'll use it.
in the future.
It's
Correct.
definitely an area that I've heard, like, as a board member, have parents come to me and, it's a heavy workload.
Yeah.
Especially post-COVID, and
Yep.
it's a lot for one person to manage, and so I think this is a very much
move.
needed
Yep.
increase, and I think that'll be very beneficial for the
Agreed.
students and the staff that are, trying
Agreed.
to manage as well, so.
Yeah, the only other change I would draw your attention to on this chart is, so in the past at the middle school, we have had a school psych through LADSI, and it's a paid service, so we pay for it. And we have LADSI has had the hardest time hiring psychs. We have spent 2 years trying to hire our own psych because we're like, okay, if LADSI's having trouble, we'll just hire our own, and we haven't, they're just, the supply of psychs isn't out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I would really credit Janine Arundel, who has worked so hard and made it her personal mission to find
Way to
a
go,
psych
girl.
for our school, and has found a really, really great candidate, and you actually just approved her on the personnel report tonight for next year. So that looks like an increase because there's I think a red 1
Yeah.
near a psych, but it's really not an increase because we're paying for that position anyway through LADSI.
And we feel that, because the school psych, I mean, we feel like there's enough to support a full-time person
Oh,
for
yeah.
that. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, guys,
Oh, yeah.
okay, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's something that.
Oh, yeah.
Just right.
For sure.
Yeah, I'm still a little peeved. Okay, perfect, no, that's
Yeah.
great. Oh, and then we will not, interesting, so we are not going to have a health aide next year for, the nurses.
So our health aide,
Yep.
due to some personal reasons, has resigned.
Yep.
And we feel that was really kind of a COVID hire. And now we're quite a few years post-COVID, and we feel like our nurses can handle that responsibility. We want to give them a shot. Give them a shot. And we also are our nurse at the middle school is going to be retiring at the end of the year.
Yes,
So
yes.
we'll have some opportunity to bring in a new nurse as well. So,
Okay.
I know. So excited about it. All right.
Great,
Any other
thank you.
questions? Great. Thanks, guys. Bless you. All right. Facilities development. As the board knows, we've been working with a solar energy company to develop a plan to add a solar panel array to our middle school. Assistant Superintendent for Finance and Operations Griffin Sontag is here tonight to share the plan and discuss the benefits of an addition of solar to our district. Griffin, it's all yours.
All right, thank you. Really tonight, I'm just going to summarize the executive summary as well as the proposal that IGS has provided us. So let me go through this relatively quickly, but happy to answer any questions and go from there. So the idea is to add solar to the middle school through a power purchase agreement called a PPA. And what this will do is, with no out-of-pocket costs to the district, this will allow IGS, a company, to put solar panels on our roof, to collect the solar energy, to put that back on the grid, and to basically sell us energy at a reduced rate that is fixed, that is locked in for the next 25 years. So it doesn't cost us anything, yet our electricity, 51% of our current use at the middle school, will be locked in at a rate that's actually less than what we're paying right now for 25 years. So those are the big numbers. We'll go to the next slide.
Can I ask a quick question? So
Yeah.
the 49% is just going to be what we're doing already?
49 is going to be what we're going to be doing already.
What we're
which
doing
is-
now, that won't change.
Correct,
That's just what it is.
which every few years, I use a couple different brokers and purchase that power for the future.
Okay.
So, and so those rates will go up. You know, people are anticipating, barring any major new technology, as electricity is used more and more, and supply and demand and so forth. So, and I'll explain how we're going to save money right here on this slide. So our new rate for electricity will be about 9.5 cents, well, will be fixed, 9.5 cents kilowatt hour. So there's the half of 51% annual production. Current rate is right now at 11.34 cents. And so the idea is that what's happened in the past and projected for the future is an annual escalation, an annual increase of about 2% for each of the kilowatt hours of energy going forward. And so you take that 11.34 cents, 2% every year for the next 25 years, you get how much electricity would cost us if we did nothing for 100% of our usage. By doing this, we're going to lock in that 9.5 cents for 25 years, and it's basically going to be about half of our usage. So half will be locked in at 9.5 cents that we'll pay, and then half will kind of follow the rates of the current rate. A question might jump up right away of why only half? Why not go the whole thing? We've got some beautiful roofs, and we've got brand new roofs, which is why this works out. Talking with the company, they want to find that sweet spot for the highest financial impact for a nonprofit like us. Meaning there's credits they get from the Illinois Shines program to install the solar and create the rates that we get. If we went with a much larger array, the credits would be less, so the amount of the rate, because of the threshold of where we're at, would actually be higher than where we're able to lock in now. And so this, although it's only 50%, which I would love to do 100 or 105%, we're locking in the best rate that we could get.
Would that be an option in the future to do the other?
To add more to it, probably not. I mean, probably not based on where we're at, and you know, we got the brand new roofs. So part of another question might be, is the elementary going to do this? Because we're doing it here. Timing is an issue. So because we have the new roofs, we've got now a warranty of 25 years, and so they're wanting to put these on and having a 25-year fixed rate.
Right.
So the roofs over at the elementary school are going to last us another 10 to 15 years, and that's not long enough for a solar company to get the payback by doing that. So we'll keep it in the file when we do the roofs at the elementary. They are flat roofs, and there's a lot of open space, especially with the new HVAC units that we have on there, because there's really only 4 units plus 3 other units. Dave's getting excited because I'm getting excited about HVAC again. There's really only seven relatively small units on there. They would love to put solar on that roof, but it's not worth it to take it down to put a new roof on and then put it back up for them. So they want to do it one time. Okay, so terms 25 years. No, it says no upfront costs. I guess I want to clarify that. There's really no costs because they're going to own it, they're going to put it up, they're going to maintain it, they're going to operate it. If it breaks, they're going to come fix it. There is nothing that we do except we're basically like leasing, renting our roofs to them.
Nice.
And then our benefit is we get a fixed electricity rate for 25 years.
What happens if there's a storm, God forbid, that destroys, damages all of the units? How would that impact our ability to deliver electricity in the
The agreement that, that we'll bring to you next month really says we have a fixed rate. So they take on all the liability, all the concern, all the potential risk or costs to it.
So if that
It's just cutting
happens,
back our usage of like the other, like it's, the power's still there, we would just be using it at the current rate.
Correct.
Right,
Well,
yeah.
we would actually
Yeah.
we would still get it at 9.5 cents from IGS. They're currently our supplier
even
right
if the
now.
solar panels are not
Even if the
functioning
solar panels aren't
and
working,
need to be replaced.
we're
and
locking
right,
in
yeah.
that many kilowatt hours at 9.5 cents. Now, if there's some brand new technology where we've already swapped out the lights that have really reduced our electricity use, but if say there's an even better lighting that comes and our usage goes down, like we're planning they've built this on, we're gonna use that much electricity. So we're gonna still look for ways to reduce it, but they take all the risk.
So after the 25 years, the board at that time, if they decide they don't want to continue with this, will they also haul away the solar panels and remove them?
Yeah, and it won't even, I mean, I don't wanna say it won't be up to that board, but they're gonna take the solar panels back at 25 years.
Okay.
Unless, as you'll see on the slide here, a future board or some of you at year 7, between year 7 and 25, decides we wanna purchase them. So, which we could do.
And then we would just have them forever and have that fixed rate forever?
I would imagine that solar technology in 25 years from now will be so much
Great
bigger.
point.
Right, I would anticipate that as well. Yeah, I'm not recommending, I mean, we're still 7 years out from even the ability to purchase. At this point, I wouldn't recommend that at all, because then we take on the liability,
Yeah.
we take on all of it. It could save us more money, but it's a little bit more risky, and we're a smaller operation. We don't have, we're not a, there's other districts that might have a person who's in charge of their solar.
Oh.
Like they maintain it, we don't have that, and that's not a cost that we would want to do. So this is a drawing, a rendering of what it would look like, taking from the company, taking Google Earth and zooming in and then putting it where it would go. You'll notice that a little bit facing east, some facing west, and then some facing south. So as you look at those, that would be very similar to how they would be put up and what they would look like from up above. I think it's important to note that all of this with the shingled areas here, these are kind of on the back side of the school. So when you're thinking about the aesthetics and partly why we went with shingled roof besides cost, but it blends in with the neighborhood. It's part of kind of where we're at is the homes in the area and so forth. So you would have this kind of away from Wolf Road, which is something to just to consider or to point out.
And Griffin, you said periodically they're going to be checking on like the status of the roof and whether it can still hold all of these so that it doesn't come crashing down.
No, absolutely. Safety is the #1 priority always for all of this. So a couple of things with this slide up that probably are important. One, putting these on does not in any way break the warranty that we have on the roof. So we've got this really nice solid warranty. In talking with not only the solar company, but even the warranty and the roofing people, they actually talk about how parts of the roof, like in 25 years, if this all comes down, the parts that have been covered will actually be, in most cases, in better shape than the rest of it because of the weather. The elements aren't hitting the roof. The main thing is the sun. The sun will be blocked from hitting it. It'll almost be like in the shadow of these, as these are mounted on top. And so the roof can actually last longer in those areas.
This design was the company's design, and why that configuration, and why not all of the roof, and why the gaps?
They went for the size. I mean, the size was the big part, and then which way it's facing, and where the trees are, and the sun. So, the south facing. I knew that the south. So I don't know if all of you know, but I was a former middle school science teacher, science and math. But I knew that lower left area facing south, right out here, was going to be a good spot. I didn't know that it would be on the other sides doing the east-west thing as well. So they designed that. Back to the safety again. We have been in consult with Pleasantview Fire, asking them not only about the weight and the structure and if there's snow on top and all of that, but also, should there be a fire, whether related to this or inside the school, and then getting to the fire and then fighting the fire and so forth. So we talked to Sam Giordano Jr., the fire inspector. He said the way they fight commercial fires is different than maybe home fires and what you see where they're really big on having to vent out the roof and do some of that. He said just continue to work with them when the plans are going up. They want to be here and do their inspections, and then afterwards their trucks will know that if they get called here for a fire, that they know that we've got solar, and they have their procedures that they treat it a little bit differently when they attack that fire. So
do we ever have Tri-State come, or is it always Pleasantview?
We have both from here,
Should we
but
bring Tri-State in?
I mean, our inspector for here is Pleasantview, where we're at, and then Tri-State's over at the
Oh, so the
elementary.
Tri-State wouldn't come to the
They
middle
wouldn't,
for
I mean,
fire?
if there was a fire
Depends on the size of the
here,
fire,
yeah,
but-
if there was a fire here, they're all coming.
Right.
That's
Oh,
what
I
happens.
just didn't know
Or
if they
if
should
there's, like, the
be
truck's busy
aware of
somewhere
this.
else.
Yeah.
I just didn't know if they should be.
We'll make
informed.
sure
Yeah, I
that they
think
are,
so.
especially since we really have two main and they're right here and they work well with the district. But yeah, at this point we've talked with Pleasantview about that. So go ahead, next one. So the real key of this is savings, because we don't have any out-of-pocket costs, so it turns into what are the savings. And because the savings are based on that escalator, that 2% each year that the electricity is going to go up for all of us who just buy on the open market, ours is fixed at 9.5 cents. So year one, we're looking at a relatively small savings, but $6,192. And then each year, that savings goes up just a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. By the last year, it's around 30. It's a little more than 32,000. So the total savings in 25 years, 521,567 is our calculation. If energy goes up more than 2%, our savings will go up more than that. If it's less, it'll be less. I mean, I know where I stand and what I follow with all the energy usage we're doing, the data centers we're building, electric vehicles. Things are moving electric. We need to upgrade the grid. We're bringing nuclear power plants back online to try to create more supply. I think 2% is a very conservative average for what the annual increase will be. So that averages out to about $20,000 a year of savings. So, and again, no risk, no liability, no out of pocket. I think it's a lot of positives, a lot of pluses. Not to mention there's that sustainability component. And the company we've talked with, we're looking at creating a website to show how much we're saving. We can use that in our science classrooms, our math classrooms, teach the kids a little bit about, hey, this is just up here collecting the sun's energy, and saving that.
I know you referenced it earlier, but the 9.5 cents number, can we do better? And where does that come from? How does that determine?
Yeah, I mean, that's the company calculating based on, it's a company, they're gonna make some money. I mean, we all know that. Yeah, I mean, it's a tough, I don't know the best answer. Could we get better? Maybe, but we'd have to engage another company, we'd have to have them run through everything. We've worked with these guys, it's been about 15 months that we've been kind of working on this, and finding out interconnection costs through ComEd and account numbers and all sorts of things. So
Do you feel pretty good about it?
I feel good about it, yeah. I mean, I would say if you might find somebody else, but it's really hard. It's really hard because I talked with a couple of different people, and some of them it's very much teaser type stuff, where you're like we've done all the way in. They've brought their engineers out. They've made sure that they can, our roof can hold it, and everything underneath. They've been up in the ceilings. For someone just to say, oh, we can get you 8% or 8 cents a thing, sounds good, and it would save us more money, but I'm really pleased that we're looking at saving over $500,000.
Sean, I can tell you that I had an off-the-cuff conversation with one of these energy guys from one of the IGA's competitors, sorry. When I told him that we were at 9.5%, he's like, "Oh yeah, you should take that. We're at 11." So again, like, I do think that Griffin has done his due diligence. He's working to structure the best deal possible for the district, and
Cook
I do
County's
think this
different
is
too.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, my wife works in a district out, 50 miles west of here, and I mean, they have solar farms and things like that where I think they can get a little bit lower rate, but you can't do that in Cook County. There's just a lot of other components going in. So, thank you, Dave. I agree. I feel like it's a good rate.
So this isn't something we have to go up to bid on, right?
Correct. Correct. Good question.
What's the timing of installation look like if we?
Yeah, if really they're hoping we can approve it in March, which means then they can order, get everything ready, and then they believe that they can install it this coming summer, and they said 3 to 4 weeks of the summer, and could even be less than that depending on kind of the other jobs in the area and so forth.
I mean, I love the idea of kind of leveraging it as a learning opportunity for the students,
Yeah.
like have them design, like, how do you think it would go on to the roof, and like, what's the best angles, and predict power savings. I mean, there's so many math, science opportunities there. So.
It can go lots of different ways for
Yeah.
sure, and even if it's just, this is eliminating the coal plant that's producing a lot of our energy here anyway, and how many trees that saves and so forth. It's pretty cool. Let's do the last couple slides, please. So then there is a buyout option. I mentioned it before, starting in year 7. At that point, we can talk about it with that board and see if that's something they would want to do. But it does provide some flexibility because the costs, part of the reason why we're going this route is the upfront costs would have been in the millions of dollars to put up an array like this, which we would have owned, which might have paid itself off in 5 to 10 years, but we would have had to do that capital outlay, which I really like this way of just saving money without spending any money. And then the last, the last slide. So conclusion, long-term savings, some sustainability benefits, obviously those benefits in the classroom. So our next steps would be to seek approval of the PPA contract next month, and then installation over this summer.
And the new rate would take effect starting with the new school year?
It all depends on ComEd at that point. So they said it may take a few months to really kind of switch over the connectivity and all the rest. Yeah, they said up to. They said 3 to 6 months. So we'll see. But so far it's worked really well. ComEd's worked really well with us. We had a little hiccup with a couple of things, but we figured it out and are we're green lighted.
And so ComEd's on board with
Everybody's ready to go. So we need to review the contract carefully and make sure that, again, kind of what we've heard, you're making a 20, 25-year decision. So that will impact the community for the future, and I think that's important to make sure you're clear on all of it. And then just a quick quote that I found from.
That was a good one.
Other questions? Yeah, please.
Yeah, one quick question. Like, just for insurance of the building, so anytime you poke a hole in the roof, like, there's always a concern there.
You sound like Brian, our maintenance director.
That's just
He's like, I don't know about these holes in my roof.
Yeah, so the warranty's there, that's fine,
Warranty's
but like,
there.
as far as like insurance though, like,
Yeah.
does that change because all of a sudden now we're adding additional weight, additional holes?
I don't believe so.
Or
I mean,
marginally?
It'll be something we'll report to our property casualty group and go from there. But I haven't heard of it really increasing it anything. I want to say significantly.
Sure.
I don't even know.
Okay.
And along that vein, if anything happens with their equipment, they pay to replace or fix
Yep, everything.
our whatever
That's what you'll
may or may
see
not damage.
in the
Okay.
contract is basically they
They-
own it, they maintain it, they fix it.
One of the questions I
not-
asked is like, the kid kicked the ball up there, because that might be a recess
Oh,
activity.
Totally.
Who's responsible for
Yeah.
it? That would be
Right.
the company.
But
We
their
could break the first one.
yeah responsibility, does it apply to our own property, not just their property? Is my question.
In terms of,
Like if one of their property damages, like pulls part of our roof off,
yeah, it's all related to theirs.
but they'll cover the cost
They'll
of that.
take
Like
care of
it's
it.
not gonna be out of our pocket.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Sorry, I
I
didn't
don't know if I
totally
answered
understand.
that. You know what? Like you said with the storm. Like what if a storm comes and rips off half
Yeah.
of her roof? God forbid. I just want to make sure it's not like a detriment
Yeah,
to us
right,
in
exactly.
that perspective. Okay.
Exactly. I mean, if a storm comes through and shingles are blowing off, like shingles are ours.
Right,
Shingles are part of the
right.
warranty and so forth. I mean, but
Okay.
if it pulls
Oh, yeah.
panels off,
Right.
and that pulls shingles off, like,
That's
yeah, their
okay.
insurance will work
Okay.
with that.
okay. Perfect.
Good question.
Okay.
And that 25-year
Mhm.
fixed term, like that's non-negotiable, it has to be 25 years. I just worry, like Charles mentioned, like what if the technology changes in 10 years and there's something better that we want to put on the roof in 10 years then,
Yeah.
you know?
I think we buy them out then and then put our own stuff on. If it's that much better.
Potentially,
like,
Or
potentially.
they might change that.
Or they might do it to
They
more
would,
profit.
that would be most likely what would happen, is they would come to us and request that we change the PPA or break the PPA, like, together, and then maybe they can put on new panels that are much more energy efficient, maybe they can even lower our rate at that point, like,
Right, because 9.5 cents is good today, but in 5 years,
Yeah.
7 might be the benchmark, right?
It might
We're
be.
paying- but I'm
It might
just-
be.
So in
Yeah.
that instance, what's our flexibility, what's our recourse, that kind of.
yeah, I mean, and that's one of the things people, you have to consider, like, because they could also say, nope, you're locked in at 9.5 cents, which, again, there aren't many things that seem to go down in price, especially with energy, so that's what I'm banking on, and that's what, if you go historically, we looked at the last 25 years, and then the projected out even 5 years in the future and things that we could be buying now, and 2% is a very conservative, low number that this, I mean, I'm hoping to come to you in 5 years and be able to say, you know, that number that was 6,000 and 7,000, 8,000, you know, we're ahead of schedule on that because energy has gone up 3% this year and 4% next year, and now these savings are where we're at on this 50%. So, but all good questions. I don't feel like I addressed it. I can check and see if they do 20, 25, 30, but 25 was the sweet spot, and because of our roofs and the warranty there, 25 I think is the right number.
Yeah, as long as there's like a clause to get us out of if there's better technology, I think that makes sense.
I mean, I don't know if there will be.
Yes.
Because that's not, yeah, I guess that's the balance. The balance is we're doing this to save money. And so if there's better technology that could save you more money, like we're locking in to save money now. Well, we could wait 5 years and see if there's better technology, or 10 years, but we're not saving that 6,000, 7,000 every year up until then. So I think this is a good plan, and you know, I'm hoping that we can answer all your questions and we can move forward next month. Thank you.
Thanks, Carol.
Hold on.
Yeah, thank you so much for like doing your due diligence, looking into it. Like this is a great opportunity for our students. It's so.
It's been kind of it's always there, like for the last, like I said, 15 months or so
Okay. Well,
that
thank
we've been
you.
working on it. So.
Awesome. Looks like it.
What policies?
Are you?
Yep. As is our practice, the board routinely reviews policies to ensure that our policies reflect the realities of running the district. All revisions or additions to policies reflect changes that come directly from our cross-policy service. The policies are in your board packet, and the changes are outlined in red. Any questions?
Can I just ask a question?
Mhm.
So it has a revised date of March 19, 25. That is a
Right, because we'll approve it next month.
Oh, okay.
This is the review, and then the approval.
Got
is
you.
next
Oh,
month.
okay. Oh. Even though it's, okay, past our, oh, okay, thank you.
Cool.
Sorry, thank you.
No worries.
Just never knows different.
Okay, next is items for the next agenda, which include facility development, professional learning update, approved Pleasantdale Park District before and after school program intergovernmental agreement, reemployment of non-tenured personnel, and non-renewal of non-tenured teachers. Anything else?
No, I'm so sorry, you're gonna be so annoyed with me. I'm going back to the thing, because it says revised March, not adopted March.
I'll make it,
Because I think it should be
I'll make it
adopted
February.
Okay, yeah, I just.
Yep. No worries.
Okay.
good catch. Because there were two in there, there's a new one that'll be
Correct.
approved
The
March,
right,
yeah.
the governance
Got
one
it.
sent adopted March 19th,
Yep.
but then the school district organization says
Should be
revised.
February 19th.
Right,
Yep.
so that's just where I got. well,
Perfect.
Okay, thank you very much.
Close reading, Mary.
I got
Can't
you.
be
Hey.
Anything else for next agenda? Okay, item 7, open forum. Is there anyone who would like to approach the board at this time?
I'm so sorry.
Okay, item 9 is moving into closed session, so we are going to move into closed session to discuss the purchase or lease of real property for the use of public body, including meetings held for the purpose of discussing whether a particular parcel should be acquired, the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees, specific individuals who serve as independent contractors in a park, recreational, or educational setting, or specific volunteers of the public body or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing a testimony on a complaint launched against an employee, a specific individual who serves as an independent contractor in an educational setting, or a volunteer of the public body, or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity. And then finally, collective negotiating matters between the public body and its employees or their representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees.
Yeah, first.
That was, yeah, and
So
it
we
that comes fast.
need a motion.
Oh, so moved.
Move into closed session at 7:30.
Oh, thank you, 7.
Mr. Brown?
Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Bronco?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mrs. Lenzen?
Yes.
Mrs. Marchion? Mr. Nash?
Yes.
Mrs. Walters? Yes. Mr. Zona?
Yes.
Mr. Mason?
Yes.
Okay. Now we're closed. All right.